Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to get a powerful low end when mixing bass guitar. We're going to be going through mixing bass guitar today, but before we dive in, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and look at this bass guitar. Let me hit play, of course, and you can hear how it sounds inside the track, and then I'll solo it up as well so you can hear the bass isolated by itself. You can hear our finished just bass mix here, but here's the whole song. This is the final chorus of this song, so everything's going. You can hear how it blends with the entire mix.
You don't know me, but I love you. I don't know you, but I want to. What am I supposed to do when you don't even know that I'm stuck on you? I don't know if it's wrong, but I wrote you this song, so yes.
So you can hear we've got some big, beautiful low end coming from our bass guitar. It's building a nice foundation for the bottom end of our track, but we also have some nice top end, some nice finger fret noise coming through that's going to help our bass guitar cut through the mix. So let's jump in here first. The main thing that's helping me get powerful low end from my bass guitar is the bass split trick, or whatever you want to call it, the bass trick, the frequency split trick. Let me take off all the plugins here, and you can hear our raw bass guitar, and then we're going to jump in and talk about this little frequency split that we have going. But here's our raw bass guitar sound. So you can hear we're kind of shifting the frequency range around a little bit. We're starting with a lot more low-mid information and not so much low-end and top-end. And we're kind of taking all that energy in the low-mid and shifting it out to the bottom end and to the top end. So we have that top-end energy that's going to help our bass cut through the mix, but we have all that power in the bottom end that's going to give us a good foundation in the low end of our track. Because that's what carries the weight in your track, is the bottom end. So the first thing we're doing here on the bass guitar is we're doing my frequency split trick here. Now this is something that a lot of people do. I think I took it from watching Warren Hewitt produce like a pros videos back in the days where I first saw it and picked it up. All we're doing here is we've got our bass DI and we've got our bass amp. We're making one the low end and we're making the other the top end. So here on our bass DI, all we're using is the bottom end. So we're doing 180 hertz and below. There's no high pass filter here, just a low pass, 24 dB per octave, so a little bit steeper of a slope here because we want to isolate just the bottom end. So only 180 hertz and below. Here's what that sounds like. So it's just the low end stuff there. Now on the flip side, on our bass amp, we are doing the opposite. So we've got a high pass filter instead of a low pass, still 24 dB per octave, so we're getting that isolation, we're getting that split, also placed at 180 hertz though. So we're high passing at 180 hertz and making our bass amp just our top end here. So we have a dedicated track for our bottom end and a dedicated track for our top end. That way there's not two bass guitars fighting for the same space in the low end. Because even though it's the same bass, right, the same part, coming out of the bass amp and coming out of the DI, there's going to be a slight time change. Instead of trying to time align them or anything like that, or trying to drag them to line them up visually, we're just splitting them and putting them in their own frequency ranges here. So here's the bass amp, just 180 hertz and above. So now we have control over our two areas that we need in our bass guitar. Our bottom end, that's going to be our power, and then our top end to use it to cut through in the track. So we hear the notes that our bass guitarist is playing. Coming over to our bus now, so we've got our DI and our amp running into our bus, the bass bus here, and we're going to mix them as one instrument now. So we have our DI and our amp, we've split them into their own frequency ranges, our low end and our top end. Now we're sending them together as one strong, solid bass guitar sound. So opening up here, the first thing I'm doing on bass guitar 100% of the time is a high pass filter. I don't like saying I do stuff 100% of the time because it's different for tracks, but usually when I'm opening up bass guitar, the first thing I'm doing on the bus is getting that high pass in and controlling our low end. So getting it honed in on the fundamental frequency range of the bass guitar, because that's what we want to emphasize. So we focus our bottom end first so we can boost later and emphasize that fundamental frequency range. So I'm up at about 70 hertz here, 69.3 hertz, 12 dB per octave slope. This may seem like quite a bit of high passing for a bass guitar, but trust me here. Focusing our bottom end first so we can emphasize it later. So take a listen without and then with the high pass. Notice with the high pass in, we gain that extra level of focus, so it feels like our low end, our bottom end gets louder because we're getting rid of what we don't need, which leaves more room for what we have left to shine through, which is our fundamental range sitting around 80 hertz here on our bass guitar. Now the next thing I'm doing, because this is more of a hollow body bass sound, I don't know if you can see it in the video, it's an old Univox bass that we have here at the studio that we used on this track, I believe. So it has a little bit more mid-range or low-mid energy to it. So we're pulling a lot of that out here at around 200 hertz, just so it's not so heavy or so woofy or muddy sounding here. So take a listen without this cut, and then I'll kick it in. So that's our first step there in shifting our frequency range around. We're taking all that low-mid energy out so we have more room to emphasize the power in our bottom end and a little bit of that top end so it cuts through and you can hear the discerning notes in the track. Now before we do any boosting here, low end or top end, I want to get my compression in here. Before we boost any bottom end, even more than we boost top end, right? We need to get our bass guitar even. I don't want to boost bottom end and then have the bass guitar moving all over the place. And I don't want to boost bottom end and then try and compress it, because then we're going to hold our low end back from being as big and powerful as it could be inside the track here. I want to get the bass guitar even and consistent and then boost bottom end. So the low end we're boosting is consistent and it's solid inside the track. That's how we get powerful low end on our bass guitar here. So I'm using this 1176 style compressor here. 4-to-1 ratio, so as gentle as we can be on this compressor here, but still more of an aggressive style ratio. The attack, can't see, I got lights in my face, I believe is 0.55 milliseconds up there, and then our release is all the way fast at 50 milliseconds. So this is a medium slow attack for this unit, but it's still very, very fast of an attack. Now, I'm pushing the input up to get compression, and then we pull our output down to balance our volume in and out of the compressor here. So take a listen without it, and then I'll kick it in. You can see how much reduction we're doing as well. One of the nice things about bass guitar is you can get pretty aggressive with compression, and you're usually going to get nice things out of it, especially if you're doing it this way where we compress before we boost. It gives us an even bass sound, and it's also giving us a little bit more attack on the front end of our bass, which is going to be nice when we boost top end into this compressor. We're going to get some more of that finger noise, some fret noise up on the top end that's going to help it cut through in the mix. You'll have a little bit more of a transient on the front of the bass guitar that gives it some attack and some energy on the front end. Now, the evenness we're getting on the bass guitar here, because we're doing this 5 dB reduction across our bass guitar, is going to give us plenty of room to boost bottom end afterwards here. So listen one more time without and then with the compressor. So we've got our bass guitar nice and even. We've added some front end attack there with the compressor. Now we're going to come back to our first EQ here, and we're going to boost some top end. The first thing I like to boost is a little bit of mid-range around 700 or 800 hertz here. This kind of gives you that meaner sound on bass guitar. But even in a track like this that's not necessarily mean sounding, some of this kind of mid-range growl, that's what I call it, mid-range growl, helps you discern the bass, and it helps it sit really nice with any kind of guitars or mid-range elements. So the piano, the organ, stuff like that. It helps the bass guitar sit really nice in that frequency range. So take a listen without and then with this 3 dB boost at 700. Just that touch of mid-range there. It also helps make sure our bass guitar isn't so scoop sounding, because we do have this big cut here in the low mids. Next thing we're doing here, you can see this is quite a huge boost up at 4K. We're doing about 14.5 dB, adding that in at 4K here. This is going to give us all that top end, that brightness, and that finger, that fret noise, that pick noise that we want to hear on the bass guitar. That's going to help it be present in the track and cut through on smaller systems as well. So we want our bass guitar to be present even on smaller systems that aren't supporting bottom end. And that's how we're going to get this here with this big top end boost here. So take a listen without and then with. Now our bass guitar is going to be present no matter what kind of system we listen on, because we have a full frequency range here of frequencies that are going to show up on any kind of speaker. We have bottom end, we have mid-range, and we have top end. Now let's emphasize that bottom end so it feels powerful and it feels big inside our track. The secret here to getting powerful low end when you're mixing bass guitar is boosting at the end of your chain here. So we've done our EQ work to get rid of any muddiness, emphasize top end and mid-range. We've done our compression to get our bass guitar even and emphasize some of that front end energy, that attack, that initial transient. Now we're going to boost bottom end. We have that consistent bass sound. We have all the frequencies we need. Let's emphasize our low end here now. So we're doing about an 8 dB boost or 7.5 dB boost at 80 hertz here. So we're boosting at the fundamental, and this is going to bring up that nice, consistent bottom end that we've built on our bass so far. So take a listen without and then with this boost. This technique here of boosting bottom end at the end of your chain after compression, to me, make sure you don't need any of the extra stuff like multiband or anything like low end or stuff like that to kind of bring up bottom end, because we've built it into our signal chain here. We did our EQ processing at the beginning where we pull out stuff. Then we did our compression, we get our bass guitar even, and the final step here is we bring up that consistent, powerful low end, because it's solid down there on the bottom end. It's not moving all around. We have that nice parked fundamental that we can bring up to get our bass guitar sounding powerful in the track here. So let's throw it inside the track here, and I'll A-B our processing on our bass guitar. You can hear our before and after.
You don't know me, but I love you. I don't know you, but I want to. Ooh, what am I supposed to do when you don't even know that I'm stuck on you? I don't know if it's wrong, but I wrote you this song.
So if you're struggling to get that powerful low end on your track, try these techniques here. Use the bass frequency split trick, and then use the technique of boosting our bottom end post compression. So we do our EQ cutting here, shift our frequency ranges around a little bit, then we're compressing to get our bass guitar even and consistent, and then we're boosting that consistent bottom end to get our bass guitar powerful inside our track. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start getting more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.